What's up?
There
Hey,
we go. Okay, I found you.
cool. So we are live. We are recording, and so I just want to set the stage for everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 20 of Expert Mentors Live, and we've got a really awesome call set up for you guys. And I always know when Daniel reaches out and says, "Man, you need to make sure you get this person on the Wednesday Expert Mentors call." I was like, "Got it." And so things around, made it happen. I really appreciate you being flexible and able to jump in this week. And so before I hand things over to you, I just want to kind of set the stage so everybody just is aware if this is the first Expert Mentors you're catching or if this is the 20th. Expert Mentors Live is really designed for us to tap into the horsepower of the community that we have with Honey Badger Nation and Fast Forward Movement. And there's just so many amazing people in the community that we really want to be able to leverage all of the knowledge and the value that we have to be able to share back to each other. And today's no different. So super excited to have Laurel on to really teach us the do's and don'ts of divorce real estate. I'm excited. I got my notepad and I'm going to take some notes. So Laura, please tell us a little bit about you and then the topic that you're diving into today.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me on. And thank you, Daniel. Hopefully you're out there. Thanks so much for bringing us all together. This is great. So a little bit of information about me. I am a realtor. I've been working in Southern California for going on 14 years. And for about 13.9 of the 14 years that I've been in business, I've been focusing on handling real estate matters in family law cases. I got my real estate license. I do not have any sort of a legal background. I was a flight attendant before I got into real estate. And then very shortly after I got into the business, I was actually referred a divorce listing that was from a guy that I knew who was a divorce attorney who called me up one day and said he got me appointed to sell a house. And I didn't even know what that meant, really. And then I shortly discovered that this involved some stuff that I had never learned in real estate school. And I had a wife who wanted to sell the house and be gone in 30 days. Her son was starting school in Oregon and they had to move. And then when I contacted the husband said, lose my number. I'm not going to cooperate with you. I'm not selling my house. My wife wants to take my son out of state and hell will freeze over before I sign your listing agreement. So he was true to his word. He actually did not cooperate at all. And I found myself, this is my second listing as a realtor. I found myself in court on a witness stand explaining to the court what I needed to have done in order for the husband or in order for the house to sell. And it was like, I had never even been inside a courthouse. I felt like a criminal. It was the most foreign experience. So I went on this quest to learn and there was no education whatsoever. I was shocked. I figured surely NAR would have a certification or, there would be some, I don't know, specialty in this, and there was nothing. So over time, I sort of dove in. I loved the challenge. Doing FSBOs and expireds and those types of calls did not appeal to me. It didn't appeal to me to do sort of, direct consumer type marketing. I had a short stint in between my flying career and real estate in working in insurance, and I worked B2B, business to business. So that is really what appealed to me, and that's one of the things that appealed to me about this niche. I also learned over time how much the family law community needs realtors. They need the information that we bring, that we have, the resources that we have, and yet realtors don't really know what information we have that they need or even how to bring it to them. So fast forward 14 years, I've handled over 1,000 cases. I have now put together my all of my training, all of my background into curriculum so that realtors who want to do this niche have what I wish I had 14 years ago. And that's the Divorce Real Estate Institute.
That is awesome. I love that, and really just going all in and seeking out, since the information wasn't there, right? And that's really what this community is about, is seeking to be the best, and then adding value back into the community.
Love it.
You know, I'm sure you're going to jump in with you know, the presentation that you have for everybody today. I'm just curious, can you share some statistics so that, you know, we can, you know, get our heads around really the real opportunity within this niche?
Let's do that. Is it okay if that's actually one of the first things that I talk about. It may be the second thing I talk about, so bear with me, but I get there. Yeah. So would it be okay if we go ahead and get started? Okay. Sounds good. So what I did, let's see here. Did you give me controls? Can you see my screen?
Let's see. All panelists. So yeah, just, you can share. Let's make sure.
My Keynote. I'm going to share Keynote. Do you see it?
There you go. Awesome.
Cool. Okay. So, so what this is a very broad overview, and I'll be honest, these slides, this class is something that I teach. It's actually about a 3-hour live class that I teach. So we are going to breeze through it. We do not have 3 hours, obviously. What time? Let me make sure that I am cognizant of time. It's 10:09 on the left coast here right now. What time do we need to wrap this up?
We'll wrap it up at the top of the hour. So you've got to give it 50 minutes to rock and roll. And you know, for those of you on that are listening live or coming back around, listening to the recording, if you have any questions, obviously use the chat feature or throw it into the Q&A box, and we'll get those addressed. And then if you're listening to the recording, make sure you throw it into the Facebook posts, and we'll definitely get you guys some more information.
Yeah, for sure. And so what I'll try to do is I'll try to break maybe 10 minutes prior so that we can open it up to questions.
Perfect.
So anyway, so just so that you know, I am going to move really quickly through this material so that we can fit it within the timeframes that we have. So essentially, what is divorce real estate? So as a realtor who specializes in family law, I serve two sort of groups of people, if you will. So I provide services and resources to the legal community. So that would be to attorneys, to other legal professionals, to judges. I educate them, and I provide resources to them. And then the other sort of group of people that I provide information to, or that I actually service, is the divorcing homeowner. So those are two skill sets that a realtor who specializes in this niche needs to learn and needs to master. I will say that the term expert is thrown around really loosely in the real estate community. And you know, how many times have you seen a sign, a magnet on a car that says, you know, I am an expert in short sales, foreclosures, relocations, move up buyers, first time home buyers, right? In the legal community, it's actually a legal term. So when I say expert, I am appointed as the court's expert under a certain code section, an evidence code section. In California, that evidence code section is 730. So I am appointed as the court's expert under evidence code 730. There's an evidence code for an expert all around the country, so it would be a different code section depending on the state. But it is an actual court qualified expert. So I just want to kind of make that differentiation, that it's not so much a marketing term I'm using. It's actually a title, if you will. So we're going to talk about what is a divorce real estate expert. Well, I just kind of went over that right now. What is a divorce real estate expert? It's somebody who has specialized knowledge in providing services to the family law community, as well as providing skills and services to a divorcing homeowner. So we will briefly go over the big why of real estate, Lead Gen 101, the rule of 5, managing the drama, the risks and rewards of this niche, and then we'll open it up to a live Q&A. So the big why. So, you know, we estimate that there are about 1 million divorces filed every year nationwide. About 70% of all divorce cases involve real estate. So there are, expireds and FSBOs, and those niches oftentimes are saturated. My very first listing that I ever took when I was a brand new realtor, it expired. I mean, I listed it, I couldn't sell it. It was just your typical rookie, thing. And it expired. My name was in the MLS, and I actually got, I woke up one morning the day after it expired, and I went downstairs to look at my phone, and I had like 27 missed calls by 8:00 in the morning. So, expired is a great way to get a business. There are people who have built major businesses in doing expireds. So it's not in any way to knock that. But what I'm here to talk about is that there is actually an untapped niche, an untapped need for divorce. And obviously, we all know the golden rule is that listings lead to listings lead to more business. So the more listings you have, the more sign calls you get, the more leads that you get. So it's a great, great opportunity. So, why is it untapped? It's interesting because whenever I've gone to a lead generation class, or I've gone to a conference or whatever, and, you're sitting in these classes and you're kind of spitballing ideas on where do you get business? Where can you get business? And everybody kind of throws out ideas. You can get them from your sphere. You can get them from farming. You can build a business, get leads from open houses and those sorts of things. And almost always an idea comes up that you can build a business getting leads from divorce attorneys. That almost always is one of the ideas that comes up that is written sort of on the whiteboard, right? And yet, how many realtors do you really know that are killing it in this niche? I mean, at the end of the day, how many real divorce realtors do you see on big stages in our country? Not many, if any. I don't know of a realtor, and not to say that there isn't one, I don't know of a realtor that does more volume than I do nationwide. I don't know a realtor that does near the volume that I do in divorce real estate. And why, and why is that? It's not because the opportunity isn't there. It isn't because the need isn't there. What it is that realtors do not, like I said in the beginning, they don't know the value that they have, and they don't know the value that they can bring to the legal community. And ultimately, realtors show up as salespeople to family law attorneys. Family law attorneys don't want salespeople. They need professionals. They need experts. In a family law case, you've got child custody issues, you've got forensic accounting issues, you've got support that needs to be decided, assets to be divided. And in family law, they rely on experts in these different fields. There is an expert called a child custody evaluator that is a psychological, it's a person with a PhD who actually does a forensic investigation to determine how custody should be divided between parents. The same thing is true with a forensic accountant who they can go in, especially in cases with lots of assets, they will go in and they will determine how much all the assets are and what are the best ways to divide things. There is something called a quadro that pensions get divided. Lawyers are accustomed to experts and relying on experts. And yet the house is the largest asset in most cases, and they don't actually have an expert that they can use to rely upon for the real estate aspect of their case. So that's what we need to learn as realtors, how to show up in their world as experts. So this is a lawyer referral-based model. We don't lead generate to recent filings, no lead generation to the public. So why is that? Well, I get a question. One of the most common questions that I get is, what is the approach I should take when I get filings or, I have access through whatever program to recent divorce filings? Well, what happens in a divorce case is someone will file and then that person serves the other person. Oftentimes you can, a person, let's say it's a battered wife syndrome, that maybe there's some domestic violence, and that wife has worked very closely with her attorney to strategically file and serve the perpetrating spouse, so that she and her safety and her children are protected. There could also be privacy issues, wanting to make sure that, that they're served in such a way. So timing and orchestrating the service of divorce filing to the other spouse is a very big thing. But as a realtor, we just see who filed. We don't know if they've served the other party. So if you're a realtor who's trolling the recent filings, you could be calling on a spouse who doesn't even know that their spouse has filed yet. It can be it can be an invasion of privacy. I think there's an ethical issue. Personally, I feel that there's an ethical violation there. So that's one reason. Another reason is there's something called ATROs, automatic temporary restraining orders. So as soon as that person is served, so there's a filing, then there's the service. Upon service, something called automatic temporary restraining orders go into effect, and that prevents either party from selling or selling assets, from closing bank accounts, from taking the children out of the country. There's all of these, a whole list of things that now the court has jurisdiction over. So a lot of times, you can be talking to one spouse who is either going to file, they just did file, they're kind of early on in their case, and they want to sell the house. So then I get asked questions by realtors. Well, how do I get the other spouse on board? Well, the thing is that until the court has made an order, you can't, the house can't be sold, because there are these temporary restraining orders that take effect. So it's a legal process that we are in, that make it much more unique than simply lead generating to open houses, or lead generating to, somebody who has full authority and ability to sell their house. So it's important to understand that also, the legal system is the leverage. So another question that I get asked is, how do you manage the drama? How do you get two people to agree on things? Well, the thing is that the legal system, if you have one spouse who is not cooperating and the court has ordered the property to be sold, there are mechanisms in place within the legal system to actually have the party removed from the house, to have the court sign documents on behalf of the uncooperative spouse. So it's important to understand, again, how to leverage the legal system when we as realtors get stuck. So, in real estate, we honestly, the name of the game for us really is to get the business, and then we'll kind of figure the rest out later, right? That's kind of, it's all about just get the business, and then you can figure out the rest later. Well, it was interesting. I took my son to the doctor the other day, and he has a torn meniscus. He plays football in high school, and he tore his meniscus, and the doctor was kind of, like examining his knee and bending it and all this kind of stuff, and explaining to us how the joints and everything's all connected. I kind of had this random thought. I thought, I'm so glad that this doctor spent time getting educated and mastering his craft first before he ever saw us as patients. Right? I mean, I'm glad that he didn't just focus on lead generation and how do you get patients in the door, and then he's just going to figure everything else out later once he's got the patient sitting in his operating room. He's going to then go, okay, well, now I'll just kind of figure this out. How do I do this? So it's important to understand when you step in the world of legal, of the legal world, you're now surrounded by people who have spent their time, money, and resources educating themselves first before they ever thought about lead generation. So as a realtor, it's a paradigm shift, and it's important that we recognize it. A lawyer takes 7 years, 4 years undergrad, 3 years law school, CPA, psychologist, psychiatrist, and in a realtor, it really takes us, depending on your state, maybe about 3 months or so. So I would highly educate that you get educated first before ever stepping into that world, because it's a whole different world, divorce listings. So there are three things happening simultaneously. There's a legal process. We kind of talked about that. We talked about there is a financial process, financial ties to the house that can affect other aspects of the case, such as a separate property claim or an equalization of equity or those types of things. And then lastly, there's the emotional component of the case. So those are the three pillars, if you will, that we really teach at the Divorce Real Estate Institute, because the house, it really affects all of these pillars. And so to be an expert, we've got to become very proficient in handling and understanding all of these pillars. So Judge Martha Bellinger, she wrote a book called From Robe to Robe. And when I wrote a book called The House Matters in Divorce. And one of the things that Judge Bellinger said, and I quote, as a retired Los Angeles Superior Court judge and family law mediator who's handled literally hundreds of cases involving the sale of the family residence, next to custodial issues with children, no other issue in divorce is fraught with as much tension, misunderstanding, and anger as the sale of the family residence. So we as realtors, anybody who has done a divorce listing probably knows, unless it was very amicable, probably understands that this probably doesn't come as a surprise to realtors who have done these listings. So the emotional ties to the house are very deep, and they're very complex. The house is really the glue that keeps hope alive, maybe for a reconciliation. It keeps the parties tied together. You can have a client, I've got a case right now where the husband really likes knowing, he moved out of the house, but he really likes knowing that the wife is still there. He is a very controlling person and he doesn't want the sale of the house. She wants to move. She wants to get on with her life. He is not cooperative because he knows as soon as she leaves, he's not going to be able to keep tabs on her. He's not going to know where she's going. And so you've got a lot of these dynamics that can go on. It can also be a power tool. I got the house in the divorce. People get to strut around and say, I got the house in the divorce. So, all of these types of things. I'm not going to have time to really dive too much into this for the purposes of this call, but I will touch on very briefly that it is not uncommon also in these scenarios to have clients, whether they have got long histories or whether it's more situational. But there is high conflict behavior such as narcissism, substance abuse, domestic violence, passive aggressive behavior, even sociopathic tendencies. So we actually teach a lot about understanding and recognizing these behaviors, and then how to work within a case where these behaviors are prevalent. It's important to recognize that this is oftentimes the case. Otherwise, as realtors, we sort of get hit with whiplash. We don't even know what just happened with these cases and our clients sometimes. So we need to recognize that these are actually real things that go on. I think I've got about 18 cases I'm on right now, and in probably 14 or 15 of them, one or both spouse has some sort of issues like these, what we call high conflict behaviors. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she talked about the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And the reason I bring this up is because, like I said, the number one question I get is, how do you lead generate? How do you get business in the divorce realm? And the number 2 question that I get is, how do you manage the drama? How do you get these people to agree? So I bring this up just to raise awareness that the emotional component and getting them to agree and managing the drama is that is an entire subject matter that a skilled realtor is going to need to learn when handling these cases. So most people who work in family law cases have had some training with regards to this. Lawyers go through this types of training, judges go through these trainings, CPAs go through these trainings. in how to respond and recognize these things. So a lot of times, you'll get the client who they refuse to cooperate. You can't get them to call you back. And they have either, how are they responding to stress? They either are fight, flight, or freeze. So sometimes people just numb out. A realtor is the only professional who has as much contact with the parties, and we also have a fiduciary duty to both. So that's a really interesting perspective that how we come into a case. We have a fiduciary duty to both people. How do we uphold our fiduciary duty when we get conflicting instructions? Got a case I'm on right now. The house is vacant. The parties are splitting the cost of keeping this house going. And so time is of the essence. I mean, they're paying house payments and they've got a pool and they've got, a gardener and all of this stuff. It's costing money every day this house sits. And I've got the wife who cannot wait to get this thing done. She is full steam ahead. And I just got an email the other day from the husband who said, stop everything, cancel photos. You got a fiduciary duty to both, and you've got conflicting information. So how do you handle all of that? That's a loaded question. It takes a long time to understand all of there is an answer. But a lot of it has to do with, emotionally understanding it, as well as getting through and knowing how you fit in as a realtor in the legal process and leaning on the legal field if absolutely necessary. So the foreclosure process, we need to understand real estate. Ultimately, we need to understand real estate as experts before we get into this. It is not uncommon for people, even who have plenty of money, to be in foreclosure. That's not at all uncommon for people to be in foreclosure because they just can't afford the house. We have to know what the foreclosure process is. We have to know what the anti-deficiency laws are in our state. We have to understand short sales because those things do come up. Those things do happen. We have to have a good understanding of title, prelims. So to get into this business, we really have to have a very high understanding, an in-depth understanding of our own profession in order to even qualify as an expert and to be able to handle all of the things that are going to come our way with it. Divorce lending, that's a whole other beast. There are underwriting guidelines that prevent people from being able to buy out in the middle of a divorce, qualifying during a divorce, whether it's a buyout, whether it is purchasing a property in the midst of a divorce. These things, there are special underwriting guidelines. They need to know what kind of orders there are with regards to how support is calculated and how assets are divided in order for them to qualify for a loan. So there's a whole other thing that you need to understand with regards to divorce lending. And then also being an excellent realtor. I mean, obviously, having a great marketing campaign, being an expert in your contracts, being a superb negotiator, understanding the market at a high level. These things are a given before you really ever dive into the dynamics of this niche. So again, this talks about conversion. Conversion is really, it's not so much about lead generation. It's anybody can call up lawyers. that's not a problem. It's more about how do you convert it. So when a lawyer calls you up and they've got maybe a complex case or they've got, pretty in-depth questions, how are you going to be able to convert that person and that attorney to know that you are the person to be trusted? So that is ultimately where lawyers, they're a very tight-knit community. The family law attorneys, they see each other every single day in court. Your name can get thrown out there, good or bad. When you do, I kind of learned this business, a lot of it, like I would do open houses and kind of talk to random people that would come in, and who cares if I said something wrong or if I fell on my face, didn't really matter. But, I was probably never going to see him again. But in the legal field, it's a very tight-knit community. It's kind of part of a club. They all talk. There's open court, so your name can get thrown out in a courtroom with 10 other lawyers sitting there. You always want something positive associated with your name. So you want to get, like I said, you want to get educated first, and then go after the business, so that your name is well spoken of. The rule of 5. Okay, this is what we're gonna fly through. The expectations of us, the do's, the don'ts, the traits we'll need, and the myths of divorce real estate. So the 5 expectations of us: we are hired to be an expert. They expect us to sell the house. We do not want to go to a lawyer and say, what do I do? How do I do my job? Do I have to have both parties sign the listing agreement if only one's on title? You don't go to a lawyer and ask them how to do your job. So they expect us to be an expert. We're expected to be a problem solver, because there are a lot of challenges that come along in this business, and we are expected to solve them. Prevent, diffuse, and resolve conflict. Again, we have got communication with both parties. We have a fiduciary duty to both parties. So we have to be very careful what we say and how we behave with these people, so that we do not continue to perpetrate conflict. And we want to kind of see things like that can be coming down the pike, so that we can prevent them as well. We're expected to be neutral, unbiased third party with no vested interest in either side, and we are expected to complete the sale. The do's: know our craft and master it, know our market and articulate it, know our listing strategy and demonstrate it, know the pitfalls and prevent them, and know our lane and stay in it. The don'ts: don't position the parties any more than they already are. So again, saying something that can, I'll give you an example. So when you communicate, each party, most of the time, the parties feel there's been a violation of trust with the other spouse. So a lot of times they are looking for someone who is a neutral, to maybe, are they really neutral? They need to feel that they're really neutral. So I, for example, will not meet with a client. I will not speak with the same client more than 2 times before I've spoken with or met with the other client. So we don't want to get too far down the road. You talk to somebody, you go do a walkthrough of the house, you have them sign the listing paperwork, and now you make contact with the other spouse. After you've gotten that far down the road, what we've done then as a realtor is we have just given a perception that we are no longer neutral. So that usually doesn't go over too well with the other spouse. We don't want to say things like, I spoke to Mr. So-and-so and he would like to accept the offer. Do you agree with that? Well, if Mr. So-and-so has cheated on his wife, or who has abused her, or has caused all kinds of harm and betrayal and whatever, anything he agrees to, she is not going to agree to. So it's important to not say it that way. If you say it that way, you'll probably just dig these people even further apart, and then what do? You call the other one, well, she says she's not going to agree. So and then you just get yourself, what you want to do is you want to establish the trust and the credibility as the expert, to then make a recommendation to the parties. It's not about them agreeing with each other. It's about them agreeing with you. So you get an offer, you make a proposal. You think that my recommendation as the professional would be that we either accept this offer or that we counter it and we do these things. This would be my recommendation. And if they trust you, and if you're credible, and if you've established that trust in the beginning, then it's much more easy to get them to agree with you, versus trying to get them to agree with one another. So don't give an appearance of impropriety. Recuse ourselves from dual agency. I know this is when I kind of get booed off the stage and everybody flips out at me. But I highly recommend in these cases, because it is very sensitive. You're also in the legal field. The concept of dual agency to them is just foreign. A lawyer Most lawyers cannot fathom representing two sides. So, because they're trained to be a zealous advocate for only one side. So, there can just be, over time, there can be sort of this appearance that perhaps you had your own interest at heart, or that you put maybe the buyer's interest above theirs. So I like to just stay away from it. I like it to be very clean. I like to not conflict myself out in any way, or give any sort of perception that I'm conflicting myself out. My name is too valuable. My reputation is too valuable to me, and I just don't want that. So,
how do you handle when one of the spouses, you make your recommendation, and the spouse, agrees with you, but then asks, well, what did the other spouse say?
I try to get them off that position. I really try to get them to say, listen, it's my job to speak with him. That's my job. This is about you, and what do you want? How do you feel about this? Because you guys, my job is to get this property, is to get both of you, to facilitate the sale with both of you. So let me worry about him. I want to know what you think about this.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Keeping boundaries, that's important as well. I recommend not having a personal relationship. I mean, there are going to be some where you have friends who are getting divorced and they want to use you. I get it. I'm talking about when you get on a case with an attorney, that you keep boundaries, at least during the listing, that you do not create a personal relationship with one of the spouses. Don't place our interest in above what's the best for the family. Again, this is where dual agency sometimes can skew perception. Even if we have been completely fair, the perception that we've been completely fair may not be necessarily, agreed to. So I would recommend, and also, we as realtors are trained to create urgency, right? And to say, well, now's the time to sell because the market is shifting and rates are going up and the Feds are going to be meeting again soon. And, as soon as that happens, we all know rates go up, prices go down, and blah, 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 blah. So if somebody comes to you and maybe somebody really wants to keep the house because maybe the children have gone through enough turmoil and they just want to be able to complete high school in that house. And so maybe one spouse wants to keep the house so that the children can stay in it. That's just an example. Try to make that work. See if, put them in contact with a lender who specializes in divorce lending. CDLP is that lending is what a lender who has that designation does. But anyway, I kind of ferret that out first. I don't want to try to talk them into selling the house. If really what's best for the family, maybe to keep it. That way I also know by the time they do decide to sell it, they're not going to change their mind, mid-transaction to keep it. Again, don't give legal advice, and don't lose control of the case. With 5 traits we need: credibility, trustworthiness, problem-solving skills, communication adeptness, and neutrality. Neutrality is important. The perception of neutrality is even more important. The 5 myths of divorce real estate that our job is to get them to agree with each other. We talked about that. Our job is really to get them to agree with you as the expert. Our clients want to sell the house. A lot of times our clients don't want to sell the house. Family law attorneys and judges know about real estate. Their job is to know the law. Their job is not to know real estate and all of the ins and outs of real estate every single day. Most attorneys took maybe 1, if not 2 courses in law school, and that's it. So they don't sit in our shoes every day. I would say, just like realtors do not know lending inside and out. I mean, I know enough to carry on a little bit of a conversation. I don't know underwriting guidelines. I don't keep up with all of that, just like they don't keep up with what we do. So it's important not to be intimidated. We're the ones that live and breathe in these trenches all day long, every single day, that study this and that work within the market on a daily basis. So we're the ones that are the experts. The myth is that we're a salesperson. Salespeople don't have fiduciary duties. So in this niche, we're a professional. We're a colleague. We're an expert. We're not just a salesperson in these cases. And another myth is that this is 3 deals in one. I know this is another place where everybody gets upset, but and it may be. It may turn out to be 3 deals in one. Realistically, rarely ever happens. Number one reason is because people can't afford to buy a house right out of a divorce. Divorce is financially devastating. And their credit takes a hit sometimes, even if they're not late on payments, but their cards are maxed out because they're paying attorney's fees. So number one, a lot of times they're not in a position to be able to afford it. Number two, a lot of times people just want to sort of coast a little bit, move into an apartment for a year, let the dust settle. And then the third reason is sometimes they don't want the same person who communicated with their spouse, who handled the sale of their house. They sort of want a fresh start with someone else. That's not uncommon. Even though we did a great job and they loved us, sometimes they see us as the person who was there in a really dark time. So it doesn't turn into that.
Yeah, it still seems like that's part of managing the drama as well on the emotional side.
That's exactly right. Yep. So again, it's about psychology. We've got some methods, and this is what I can send to you guys. There is something called the Webb method that's put out by the High Conflict Institute, where they talk about through this method, you can quickly and easily identify high conflict behaviors. I'm going to breeze through this because we just don't have the time. And then the EAR approach, once you do identify a high conflict behavior, how do you communicate with them? How do you respond to that? This is awesome information, you guys, even just in life, even in other real estate transactions. So I will send you guys the handouts because we just don't have time, but it's awesome stuff. And it's not long. It's easy, quick reading. Maybe 4 or 5 pages a piece. And then the BIFF response also. How do you craft a BIFF response? So the risks and rewards of this niche, the lack of knowledge is costly. This is a case that I got put on back in, I believe it was January of this past year. This property had been listed by a realtor. The situation in this one, wife lived in the house and husband lived out of the house, but the husband was the only one on title. So who's the client? Who's the client when husband is the only one on title? Ultimately, it's the husband that is who we owe a fiduciary duty to. So this realtor had a listing agreement with the husband. The wife didn't want to show the house. She was very uncooperative. The realtor sort of went along with it. The realtor sort of didn't really have the wife much under control. And then they got an offer. And she presented the offer to the wife and to the husband. And the wife said, I don't agree to take it. And the husband said, I want to take the offer. Well, because the wife said she didn't agree, the realtor told the wife, told the other agent, we're not interested. We're rejecting your offer. So the husband, this listing expired. The husband has brought charges against this realtor. So not only did the realtor lose the commission, you can add up the math on a 1.165, but he also has brought charges against her for breach of fiduciary duty, contractual breach. He's filed complaints. She's in a world of mess right now because she did not understand her role. And there are a lot of things I would have done differently. And, we've got too much, we don't have enough time to go into all of that, but suffice it to say that getting into this world, we're stepping into legal waters. and it's important to understand, to be educated before getting into these cases. So these are, my day sort of looks like this. I mean, I have lawyers that are constantly calling me, that are constantly texting me. They've got issues, they've got questions. Laurel, can you please call me? I need this, I need that. And I'm there for them. I'm their resource. I want to be that resource for them, even if it's not always a sale, even if it's, other things that they just need help with their cases. I always want to be that person. I always want to be the resource for them. And then the last piece is, we're in a big tech disruption industry right now. We have got a lot of brokerages and a lot of models that are coming out that are really threatening our industry. I think if Zillow had it their way, you could, submit offers online. You already can. And that's a whole big controversy we won't even get into. But there are discount brokerages, all of these things. So in these cases, and even, even at Inman, they were talking about, even in a divorce case, they will not be able to appoint, a robot, if you will, to handle the sale of a house in a divorce case. This is not something that can be automated. So it is, in my opinion, it is a critical time that we as realtors, we realize where, the turn that our industry is taking, and we really specialize and we become experts and we become indispensable. And the divorce niche is wide open and they need us. They need us. So that, in a nutshell, is sort of it. The Divorce Real Estate Institute, obviously, shameless plug, but hopefully it's a resource for you guys. It's the purpose of the Divorce Real Estate Institute is to educate realtors in this niche so that realtors can build successful businesses through providing value and being experts to this niche that is very, very, very untapped and very, very much needed. So that is sort of it. We've got an online class that you can take. It's an on-demand video course for those of you who, think, what, I want to know about I want to know more information about this. Some of you, probably most people, fall into one of three buckets. You either don't want to touch another divorce listing with a 10-foot pole, which is fine. You know that you need to know some stuff, and you know that you're going to come across these listings every once in a while in your farm or in your sphere. So you want information about that. Or there are going to be some of you that are going to say, what, this is the niche. I feel called to do this. This speaks to me. I am an expert in real estate and I want to add another leg to my business. So if you're one of the other two, the Divorce Real Estate Principles course, it is a how-to course on how do you actually handle a case in a divorce listing. We weave in the case study of Hector and Wendy. We follow the case of Hector and Wendy throughout the whole course. So it brings all these concepts to life. So then we have the master course. Our next class is October 14th. It's here in Southern California. It's a divorce immersion. We have a faculty of attorneys, judges, financials who all come together and teach the whole world of divorce. And that's where we certify people to become a certified divorce real estate expert. And then after that, we're a community, because we're very sort of rare and we need to support one another. And the circle membership is where we go into building the business, as well as, marketing and all of that, as well as support on how to handle these listings and handle cases. And we go, it's cradle to grave, marketing, all of that kind of stuff. So for you guys, Daniel, when I talked to Daniel, I promised him that I would give you guys an EXP rate of $300 off of the Principles course. So if you guys want to enter in the code for, that is thanks EXP, you'll get $300 off that course. The master course includes the Principles. So if you invest in master course, principals is included. Also, your hotel, your room and board is also included for the whole week out here for the tuition and master course. So that is it. Did I sail through that in, wow, I talked fast.
No, it was awesome, man. I really appreciate you diving through. Anybody on has any questions, hit us up in the chat or into the Q&A. Any questions that really grabs you. I know, I had a couple, and obviously the training and the course would more than cover all of this. And, just a couple things that were really kind of going through my head was obviously the thinking of, how do you really position yourself? How do you really position yourself when you're introducing yourself to any of that small niche of the family law? We've been small town, so Lawton, Oklahoma, 100,000 in the entire community. And so, it was just running through my head. There's only a handful of folks, getting aligned with that would make sense in that market. But, like for you, bigger market, even for us here now in North Dallas, what are one nugget maybe that would be like, hey, this is kind of ideal way to introduce yourself into that circle?
Yeah. So again, attorneys, they respect people who are educated. They respect people who have spent time and investment in their education, just like lawyers have. So I would say number one, is having credentials. This is obviously a great credential, and other good credentials behind your name can just be anything having to do, being a CRS or an SFR or a certified, negotiation negotiation expert one. So it's really ultimately it's building a resume. And then it is also about, lawyers need things from realtors right off the bat. Like they need title documents. I had a client an attorney who told me that they had no idea we could get them title documents because they send their clients down to the courthouse every case to go get like copies of their grant deeds and stuff. And their mortgage, their anything recorded against the property. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have access to that through title, the tip of my fingers. So those are some things that you can offer. They also need valuations. They need the property to be valued. If you ever get asked to value a property, it's not so much from the standpoint of how much do you list it for. It's more along the lines of, you need to like nail what the value is. So this isn't about, I could list it for as high as this. It's really, what do you believe that the true value is? So as realtors, I qualify as an expert in family law. A lot of realtors do because we live and breathe the market. You don't necessarily have to be an appraiser to qualify to value properties. So you can let attorneys know that you're able to provide them information like that. And then just educating them on the market. The key to a lawyer's heart is through education. They're nerds. They're complete nerds. So they love education. So the more information we can provide to them, the higher their respect level is going to be for us, and the better of resource and a value you're going to be to a lawyer.
Love it. That's awesome. That's definitely a golden nugget for everybody as well. Jennifer was asking if we can, provide the slide deck with the call so people can kind of go back through for anything that they may have missed. And then also, what is the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Sure. So what I will do is I will send out a link after this, after the call. I will send out a link. We are limiting the number of realtors that we are certifying. We are limiting it per market. So we're not doing more than 3 per market. We don't want to overcrowd a market. And then we've got, lawyers we've got more realtors showing up to lawyer events than we have lawyers. So we know that we can support and handle 3 realtors per market. So the first thing you'd want to do if you want to become certified is you want to check availability. If you go onto our website, you can click on our website, dreinstitute.com, and you can click check availability. and see right now, to be honest with you, most markets are available. We have got, we're literally right now, we are pouring through about 120, 140 applications right now that we've received. Our application deadline for the October course is September 15th. So as of right now, because we're just launching, this is our first year. We've only done one master course, and our second master course in the last one of the year is going to be in October. Most markets are available. But you will want to make sure that you double check, because as we are going through all of our applications, we are accepting, people a little. We just accepted a gal from South Carolina this morning. So, every day we're sort of giving acceptances. So you want to check the availability, and then we can be in touch with you.
Perfect. I love it. Awesome. Laurel, thank you. Amazing call. And really appreciate you jumping in and adding a ton of value and really being a true expert mentor and helping everybody out today. And for everybody listening to the call with us live or listening to the replay when we get the call posted, make sure you guys share some love and also share some of what your biggest takeaway was. We really appreciate that. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Awesome. Cool. Laurel, thank you very much. And thank you guys.
You guys are awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.